Good afternoon, Assemblywoman Hunter. Thank you so much for joining us for our second NCOIL one-on-one. So to begin today, I would like to start off just by asking, how did you first get involved in public service? And then along with that, can you please explain the different levels of government service you've been involved in other than the state legislature, if any?
Right. Well, that's a very lengthy question. How to get involved in public service. I believe it's been ingrained in me my entire life. My father and family have always been a part of actively serving in the community. And so that was just how I started my life and lived my life. It was, relative to being able to give back to the community, however you were, able. And that's how I've kind of, lived my entire professional life. I've worked for several not-for-profits. So that's, another way of being able to provide service to the community. I am a U.S. Army veteran. So that's another area where I've been able to provide service. And I was elected to the City of Syracuse Common Council before the state legislature. So, for all of my professional life and even younger, it's been ingrained in me that, there's always a part of you that you need to be able to give back and to be able to serve. If you're able, you need to be able to serve.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your service. And that is, wow, a really great background. How would you say your public service affects your personal life?
It's a good, interesting balance that one needs to be able to maintain, especially as a legislator. It's not a 9 to 5 situation. There's many times it's early morning and late nights and weekends. But really, if you're being your authentic self, living an authentic life, it shouldn't actually impact you in a negative way because you're living your life to serve. It obviously is time consuming, but it's something that my family, knows is very important, and it's obviously impactful for the community as well.
That's really great. That's a great answer, having that balance. And then moving on to NCOIL, how did you first hear about NCOIL? How many years have you been involved in the organization?
I heard about NCOIL. I sit on the insurance committee for the New York State Legislature, and actually that was one of the committees I asked to be assigned to when I was first elected. You can offer your recommendations and hope you get the ones that you choose, and I did choose insurance. I think that relative to the insurance industry, there's so many facets, and it absolutely impacts my constituency. So I was just privileged to be able to be in the insurance committee. And, I received the email solicitation just like others. And I spoke to the chair of our insurance committee, who is obviously part of NCOIL as well. And thought that it would be a great fit. And I have learned so much. And it's been probably 3.5 years now that I've been a member of NCOIL. Gone up through just, being a regular member to being a chair of a committee. And I enjoy it.
Good. How would you describe your experience with NCOIL in these past 3 years?
It is a great learning opportunity for any legislator, a legislator or legislatures actually, to be a part of this organization. You're able to impact legislation at a national level, creating models, and the conversation you're having relative to insurance, you can bring insight from your own state and bring back insight from other people from other states. And, and many times as a legislator crafting legislation, we look to other states in how we craft. And so being able to have a model is very important. And then being able to craft legislation here in my own state, and many times it comes from example from what's happening at the national level, the national NCOIL level.
Okay. And then you mentioned that your background is in not-for-profit. How do you think that non-insurance perspective impacts your approach at NCOIL?
It really is a full whole approach to everything that impacts people's lives. We have the Financial Services Committee at NCOIL, we have property casualty, we have life, we have health. That impacts every facet of someone's life. And, working with not-for-profits, again, that's very service oriented, and many times you're working with people who are the most vulnerable and who may need more assistance than some others. So being able to have that knowledge of the industry and knowing that there's a population of folks who really need help more, and being able to bring that narrative to the industry, I think is invaluable.
That's a really great answer. Wow. Um, okay, so what is your most valuable takeaway of being an NCOIL member?
The relationships, I think, are amazing. Relationships with not only other legislators in different states, but also the folks who come from industry, and being able, the information, if you walk away from an NCOIL meeting and haven't met a new person or haven't learned something, you weren't there for the right reason. Really, you're gaining knowledge that you would never get at a layman's level if you were not a part of this organization, and you're able to contribute and give input where you're not just a bystander kind of sitting back. And I think that is very valuable. And the knowledge, and I'm not an insurance broker, I don't have background in that, and so to me, being able to glean all that information from all of the folks that are there, it's amazing.
Okay. And then how about, what are the benefits of being a member of NCOIL leadership? So, being the chair of a committee, being part of an executive committee.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think that there are definitely different personalities, different backgrounds of people who are the chairs, and the perspective that I can bring from my state might be different from perspectives from other states. My experience and background is definitely different than a lot of the other members, and it's being able to guide and lead conversation relative to issues. So I enjoy being the chair of the Health and Long-Term Care Committee, and being able to have conversations that are impactful about health and long-term care. And we've been able to have those broad conversations in that committee. So I think that's very valuable. And then sitting at the table of the executive committee, how do we want this body to move forward? How do we want more members? How do we want more industry folks and more consumer, folks to be able to come? Because really, when people have more information and knowledge, it's power, it's helpful. It broadens the conversation when everyone is on the same playing field and they are able to contribute at the same level.
Right. Okay. And then how about, what do you, for legislators thinking about joining NCOIL, if they aren't sure, if they're on the fence, what would you say to them? What is the reason they should join NCOIL?
I would say, what is the purpose of you being on an insurance committee if you're not getting as much insurance information as you possibly can?
Okay.
The state usually pays the dues for the membership for folks to be able to come, for participants. So, obviously you're able to come to the meetings. There's 3 meetings per year. But if you're sitting on a committee of the insurance folks in your state, and you're not really understanding, the legislation that's coming in front of you, or want to be able to have a more broad perspective, you're not going to ever get that information just sitting down with your own, insurance agent back in your district or back in your state. You need to be able to get broad information. And I think it's incumbent upon any legislator to get as much information as possible. And NCOIL provides that for legislators who are very interested in wanting to get more information about the committee that they sit on.
Great. And then how about the benefits for non-legislators? So consumer reps or industry reps, what's the benefit of them attending NCOIL meetings?
It is there are a whole host of folks who come, who 3.5 years I've been coming, and there's always new people who are coming. There's always new products. The industry is evolving. And so if you want to know what's new, what's trending, what's on the horizon, those are the folks that are coming to the meeting. And the cookie cutter way that industry was providing insurance services before is not how it's happening right now. And if you want to know be on the forefront of what's happening. We're in the gig economy now. We're talking about autonomous vehicles. This is not your grandfather's insurance. So if you want to know what's going on in a more, proactive 21st century way, you need to be a part of this organization. And also, those folks in the industry get to know what your competitor is doing. If you're sitting at home and you're thinking you have everything that what it takes, I can assure you there are other companies out there that are very competitive, that are doing things and providing in a different way, especially through COVID, that makes it very much more competitive to the consumer.
That's great advice. And then speaking of COVID, how has that affected your experience with the NCOIL? Did you have different expectations for the past year compared to how this year actually ended up turning out?
We've been able to get it done. Obviously we've had to move some of the dates for our conferences. They weren't necessarily in the dates that we thought, and we're able to get things done virtually. Hey, if you can have a laptop and cell phone, you can be in a meeting anywhere across the country, across the globe, and we were able to get that done. Everyone's having meetings every day via Zoom,
Yes.
via whatever virtual platform that they use, and I think it's been very important. And the industry doesn't stop. And COVID impacts every one of the segments of NCOIL that we talk about with insurance. So now more than ever, we definitely need to be talking about the different impacts of COVID, whether it's, hey, people aren't driving the cars like they used to be, or how do we, expand telehealth, and let's have that conversation. All of that is right at the forefront of what's happening right now during COVID.
Yes. Okay. And then, so you've been attending the meetings virtually. Has that been good for you for the experience with the meetings? Is it
Yes.
different or all
It's
good?
like, you like to be able to sit and
Yeah.
see your neighbor. I've only had to do one of the meetings virtually. I did go to the meeting last September in Alexandria, and this last one that we had before I did virtual. I'll be doing this next one virtual, but really I sit on a lot of the committees, and I participate in all of them. And in some ways, actually, virtual is a little more efficient because you have to keep people to time. Where in person, things might go a little bit longer, but there's no hiccup. And actually, I do think that there's been quite a bit more participation virtually than there may be in person. It is great to see people face to face and be able to have those relationships, but really getting the information that you get from NCOIL, you're still getting that same level of information, just in a different way.
Great. Okay, and then how about, do you have any advice for young professionals entering the insurance industry?
I have a young a son at home. He's a college student. And, I would say, think about the insurance industry. I know, having talked to, reps in my area, that young people don't know about insurance, or they just think that it's something that they pay every month and it's not sexy, or maybe it's not, it doesn't seem interesting, but there are so many facets. And I think it's incumbent upon the industry, NCOIL, and others, to really get that information out to young people. It's a great career. It's a great industry, and you don't have to be pigeonholed into one thing. Like I mentioned, hey, maybe you want to, interested in life or car, property casualty, you're paying for it. You should know, what the aspects are, or financial services. They need brokers more than ever, young people interested in that industry. So, I think that there's so many opportunities. You can make a great living in the insurance industry. And I think that, if the NCOIL could do anything to expand that, explode that voice of what the industry can do, I think that it's crucial, and we're going to need them, because there's a whole host of a generation of folks who want to retire. We need those young folks bringing that vibrancy into the industry.
Definitely. Okay. And then last question, do you have a favorite model law that NCOIL has passed during your time involved in the organization, and why?
I think one of the piece of legislation that we crafted and I introduced it. So not that because I did it's the greatest, but I do think because it's the most impactful is thinking, especially during COVID and the amount of overdose deaths that we've experienced, not just where I live, but across the country. That one of the things that we talked about was the availability for Narcan and having people being able to, to have it, and that, it would be allowable. I know that it wasn't in the past, and, only certain healthcare providers could have it, but, expanding it so that you can, have Narcan and you can help folks in the community in case you see overdose deaths, I think is critical now more than ever. So I was, very privileged to be able to carry that model. And currently we're talking about a model relative to the expansion of telehealth services. And we saw how that exploded this past year with COVID. So really it's, having those conversations and creating things that are impactful and meaningful that are related to what's going on right now. We're not talking about, hitting something out of the park from a conversation from before. It's about things that are impactful now. And I'm privileged to have been able to carry that model for overdose deaths and Narcan.
That's great. Well, NCOIL is very lucky to have you to help introduce that and move laws along like that. All right. Well, then to finish our interview today, we have a few additional lightning round questions. So just, we'll go over it quickly. So favorite all-time movie. Okay. What do you think? Favorite all-time movie?
An Affair to Remember, my absolute very favorite. I watch it all the time. It's a beautiful movie. Love it.
Okay. All right. Favorite all-time book, or if you're not a reader, musical artist?
Love books. But Ernest Hemingway is my favorite author. I spent one whole year saying I would only read Hemingway, and checked everything out in the library that they had a few years ago. Only Hemingway for a whole entire year.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Do you have a favorite book by him?
A Movable Feast is my absolute favorite book. I've read it several times. Every time I read it, it just, you're talking about spring, Paris. It's just very beautiful.
Okay. All right. Favorite all-time TV show?
This is my guilty pleasure, and I watch it every single day, regardless if I have seen every episode or not. But Law and Order, I love it. I watch it.
Oh my gosh.
Every single day. It's my constant go-to.
I like it. Okay. Well, very fitting for your profession. So
yeah, I never thought about it that way.
All right. And then if you could have 3 dinner guests, living or dead, who would they be?
Oh, wow. That's always very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think, if I could have a conversation with an artist roundtable, I think that would be really cool. If you get Hemingway at the table to be able to have a conversation, and you throw in a Jimi Hendrix with that, and maybe, I don't know, just having Teddy Roosevelt there to talk about the environment. I think that, it's a table full, not just one.
Yeah.
You can have a bunch of people at your table.
Yeah, that's a great answer. All right. Well, do you have anything else to add before we wrap up today? Any last comments about NCOIL?
I would just like to say, for people who may not know what the organization is, don't be scared to check it out. I think that as a legislator, you will be bombarded by hundreds of emails every single day, and you'll be solicited from organizations across the country, National Association of XYZ. But if you really are a part of an insurance committee, it is truly valuable to be a part of this organization. Just the knowledge that you'll be able to get, and don't be scared to give it a try. We always look for new members from different states, and we're batting out of the park, with the folks who are participating now. But if you care about insurance and care about how it's going to look in the future, don't sit on the sideline, be a part of the game. And it's happening now at NCOIL.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman Hunter, for taking the time to do this today.
Thank
It was
you.
great, hearing about your background and your experience in NCOIL, and looking forward to seeing you virtually in Charleston.
Yes, I will see you very soon.